Is your frustration with ED causing an increased level of depression or a decreased level of esteem in your life? Or you confined to levels of embarrassment and anxiety when it comes down to intimate moments with a significant other when the time arrives? If this is you, please allow me, just for 1 second, to introduce to you just a few alkalizing solutions with a dynamic offer designed specifically for you that'll ultimately be a dynamic pivotal point in restoration within your manhood. Hello, my name is J. Allen Sr., your trusted #1 herbal pathologist, founder of Herbal Genesis Consulting and Products, and firm leader in herbal men. And within this video, just for a few, I want to address how to restore and get yourself back to your manhood again, or restoring your manhood, because it's vital to the true man alone himself too. Being the fact that we are the foundation, and being the fact that we are the foundation, can there actually be any weak points? For any crack within the foundation, it's over with. There is no foundation. So what actually holds everything together is the female. She's so delicate. And being delicate not to be soft. She's strong or just as strong. But at the same too, her desires are actually everything. Just as our desires are actually everything to us. So what is that we really desire? What is it that we really desire to do? What is it that we really desire to be? And that's nothing but a firm, strong, prominent foundation to the one that we love. Because if we don't have anything else, we can definitely give that love to that delicacy, and she'll receive it because she admires you. And in this short video, I just want to let you know, most definitely, to the fellas that's actually affected by ED, it's not you. If you're dealing with previous existing issues, it can be #1, diabetes, primary source of ED, or the primary detriment to ED. High blood pressure medication, of course, that causes for a decreased desire, and then also too, it affects our system. And as it affects our system, of course, we're actually in a stagnated place to where we feel as though there's just no life. And when we feel that there's just no life, then that calls for an increase in depression. We get to a depressive state. But it's also that delicacy that's right there by our side that always picks us up. And that kind of, for us, that puts us in a place, knowing that that delicacy is right there, but we're actually not getting that delicacy, needs met, you know? So regardless of how we look at it, we can't sugarcoat it, we can't bounce around it. We're not going to say it is what it is, but we're actually going to fix what has gotten us to that point. Because everything can be worked out. And when I say restore your manhood, knowing that it's not us, but everything starts with you. You have to be willing to put the discipline in, the work that it takes to get yourself back on track, back into that nature, back into that area of strength, back into that area of producing how you should be producing, back into that area of having your biological system to have an ultimate, ongoing level of great potential, just as it was designed to do. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about some key principles, some alkalizing principles that'll help with your restoration. But in order to know where we're going, we got to know where we came from, of course. And in this video, again, I want to talk about something that you probably never thought about when it comes to ED. That you probably never thought about when it comes from dysfunction within the particular area that we're focusing on today. And that's a female and a male principle. Because we always think about stimulation from a reproductive area. This is a lower end of the glandular highway. And the lower end of the glandular highway, we talk about reproduction. and it's all form of ejaculation. But in this case, we want to talk about where it all starts from, where it all begins, and that's in the brain. And we go into the upper area. The upper area of the glandular highway in the brain alone itself too is calling for regeneration. And regeneration calls for not ejaculation, but ejaculation. See, now we understand the female and the male principle. And understanding that the female principle is magnetic. That's the influence. That's the attraction. And understanding that the male principle alone is electrical. That electrical and that female magnetic attraction, once it actually comes together, there's an electromagnetic force that takes place. This is the heat that's generated. This is the uprise that you actually feel. There's no feeling in the world when it actually comes to a peak, that sensation. Again, we can't sugarcoat this. We can't actually move around it. This is the dynamic form of nature itself. This is what God had put together. And this is understanding God's body alone. So when we look at things from a different perspective, which is what we all we know, just growing up, we're going to look at it from a vague point. And from that vague point, again, is going to a reproductive stage. Just ejaculation. But this is regeneration. This is the uplift through a spiritual form. This is the uplift through knowing that there's a higher level of sexual gland stimulation. Right? So within the male itself too, we're actually talking about the adrenals again. And going to the adrenals, we can't actually exclude the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Right? Sympathetic nervous system, again, we're actually going to ejaculation coming from the reproductive area. But then again, we look at the parasympathetic area. Parasympathetic nervous system comes for that calmness, that relaxation. So we're looking at the medulla cortex on top of the adrenals, and we also too, we got to look at not the medulla cortex, the medulla itself, but also too, we're looking at the cortex. When we're looking at the cortex, that's where the sexual hormones are produced in the cortex of the adrenals alone themselves too. So we're talking about testosterone. And when we're talking about testosterone, let's get into what actually causes a decrease or reduced level of testosterone. Some of your daily activities that you're partaking in can actually be some of your biggest detriments, and you don't even know it. Such as excessive running. Running over 40 miles a week. That can cause for a reduced amount or reduced level of testosterone. Also too, we're looking at an inadequate amount of sleep. Restlessness. We up all day. Men, we got to get it, right? We got to get it. That's our focal point. We got to get it. And we hyper to what it is that we have to get. Because we want to take care of our families. But at the same time too, when we up all day. We can't sleep. We're carrying a lot. There's a stressful situation that begins to arise within the body itself. And when that stress begins to rise within the body itself and we get inadequate amounts of sleep, that's what happens to your testosterone levels. They reduce. They reduce. Right? Also, too, we're looking at what it is that we're actually consuming, what it is that we're taking in. And we're talking about specific foods. So now, the biological system is definitely being destroyed by GMO complexes. The biological system is definitely being destroyed by clone foods. The biological system is definitely being destroyed by hydro-grown foods. Knowing that this system, your biological system, its only connection, its only relationship, is what definitely it comes from. So everything that you ingest, it has to be a part of you. It has to become one with you. And if it's not becoming one with you, then it's accumulating waste, causing stress within your system alone itself. And when it causes stress within the system alone itself too, it actually causes physical, biological disorder. And physical, biological disorder causes organs to shut down, certain reactions to shut down, and the body won't function as it should, especially a neurological transmission. it'll shut down. So if the sexual gland is actually stimulated by regeneration, if it's stimulated by regeneration, then what's going on in the brain alone itself too? There's no imagination that's taking place. There's no stimulation within the regeneration from standpoint. So are we focused, if we're only focusing on the reproductive standpoint and just ejaculation, then of course too, we abandon and we neglect what's going on within the brain. And if there's no neurological transmission, then what's happening within the biological system? Again, going back to what we consume, concentrated sugars. So we got to go to the reproductive area. Let's go to the penile alone. The concentrated sugars, what do? They dehydrate the nerves. So when they dehydrate the nerves, there's a lack of moisture along the cell too. So think of anything that's actually trying to convey a message. If there's a block, if there's a damaged form within where the message should be actually conveyed or delivered, it'll be hard for it to get through. Of course. And if it's hard for it to get through, then the message, of course, won't be delivered to that particular area alone. And if the message is not being delivered to that particular area alone, guess what? There's a lack of activity that can take place. This is a biological system and it's so dynamic. A dehydrated nerve calls for a damaged nerve. And a damaged nerve calls for what? A lack of sense. A lack of sensory form. There's no feel to it. And then also too, we have to look at plaque accumulation. Excess plaque accumulation. We're dealing with blood vessels now. Now we're dealing with the vessels. Now we're dealing with blood flow. Parasympathetic. Within the parasympathetic form, this is where the erection takes place. Parasympathetic form. Because we want vasodilation. We want those blood vessels to vasodilate. We want to open them up so there can actually be an adequate amount of blood flow to the penile. So if there's an inadequate amount of blood flow to the penile, what's going on again too? So we got dehydrated nerves, and we also too have an inadequate amount of blood flowing. It's all about what we're putting into our system. But at this point, we want to gain knowledge and we want to know what we're putting into our system. Again, going back to the female and the male principle alone itself too. Female principle being magnetic, the male principle being electrical. Right? The connection is already there. God already put this body in place and tuned it to become attracted to that magnetic force. All we have to do is just play our part. Because guess what? Again, we can't sugarcoat it. We can't go around it. This is already built inside of us. We have to stay ready. We're already built to be ready. That comes with the territory. But it's so depressive. And then anxiety builds is because if we're built to be ready, then we're not ready. I see this vision in front of me. I love this vision in front of me. She's so dynamic. She's so special. So special in a way too, but I want to give her my all. But at the same time too, the issue that I'm having is the biggest issue to mankind. I'm stagnated in my rise. Being the fact that I'm stagnated in my rise is because now too, I've thought about this thing for so long from a reproductive area on the lower end and never really put emphasis on the brain power where the communication takes place. Because I thought about it I hadn't thought about it. The communication takes place in the brain, but at the same time too, what I've actually been consuming has actually caused a big detriment or major detriment. Number one, alcohol. Alcohol. Fellas, I already know. The beers, liquor, white, brown, however you consume it. But just knowing that level of alcohol reduces your testosterone. The production of your testosterone. Another major detriment to your system. Being the fact you have a sugar content. That sugar content too, let's go right back to it, is dehydrating the nerves. Right? So also too, we got to look at levels of cortisol. cortisol levels. An extreme amount of cortisol will actually cause for a decrease in testosterone. So for those that are actually going through pain, you're suffering from pain, you actually go and get your injections, those shots alone themselves too, they cause damage to testosterone production. Excessive amounts of cortisol cause an excessive amount of what? Causes your blood glucose levels to increase. Even if you go and get the testosterone shots, that's still detriment to you because it's not coming from a natural production or natural hormone production from that cortex. So again, the shots, the pump, may be a temporary fix for you. Your other forms of your blue pills and anything else that may have been afforded to you on a marketing scale that'll help you, it's really causing detriment to you. Definitely causing detriment to you. So let's talk about some alkalizing forms, some alkalizing herbs. Some alkalizing herbs that actually get you back or start to get you back on the right track. So let's talk about the burdock root. Burdock root actually increases sexual desire. Also too, it's a good blood purifier. And also too, it actually comes in and actually cleanses the arteries. Helps to remove plaque from the arteries along themselves too. We can look at soursop. Soursop is a real good herb because guess what? We talked about vasodilation, right? For blood flow. Soursop is a real good vasodilator. Also too, it's great for blood pressure, being the fact that it actually dilates the blood vessels. That's what we need, blood flow. So sarsaparilla alone itself too, a great herb, which one said it has the aphrodisiac principles within it too, but it also increases the sexual desire. It's all about the stimulation, regeneration, right? And we can actually talk about high levels of zinc, so we can actually go to condoms, which you all would know. Sea moss, you know, you hear the word sea moss all the time, but I actually go to the chondrus crispus. The chondrus alone itself too has a high quality amount of zinc, and also too for brain development. Also too expels excess mucus out of the system. These are alkalizing factors that you can start with that can actually help you to get yourself back on track. Restoration. Doesn't take much at all. Just a little bit of discipline, just a little bit of knowledge along itself too. And then we can go to specific foods. And in these specific foods, you want foods that won't clog the system, that won't clog or pretty much cause any detriment to any form of production within the glandular highway. The primary factor within the glandular highway along itself too is the pineal gland. This is where your communication takes place. From the pineal gland to the thyroid alone, to the heart. That's why you'll feel your levels, your heart will start to increase. Everything is firing off. The thyroid is firing off. Right? The adrenals are actually firing off. Due to this form, this process along itself too is so dynamic. But to get you to that place, to your true manhood, to where you used to be, and even better, I want you to click that link. Schedule your session with me. Because everybody's different. And we definitely want to discuss what is it that you're actually going through and what you're actually experiencing at the moment. So I can set you up on the right program that's designed specifically for you. Click the link below. Schedule. It's only $25. And also too, for less than $65. For less than $65. $25 is the starting process, but for less than $65 alone, we can actually get you going on the right track. And what I'm doing is for my heart, for the first 100 men that call and sign up with me. And men, this is not just for you, ladies also too as well, because a lot of time men, we're so stubborn, we're not actually going to pick up the phone, we're not going to call nobody, we just actually try to work with it. We're going to try to work with it and see if it'll work itself out. But for the most part, ladies too, contact me. Set up that schedule. Set up that schedule. Click that link, set up that schedule, and let's talk. Everything is already laid out for you, All I need to do is know what's going on with you more personally, and we work from there. I am J. Allen Sr., your #1 trusted herpetologist, and I hope to see you soon.